For everyone who uses our lovely NHS, and I think, you know, we spend a lot of time moaning about it and saying about all the cuts and privatisation, and isn't it all terrible? But actually, it's one of the best NHSs in the world, and we should be so proud of it, so proud of the doctors and the nurses and all the other staff that keep it going. And of course, we should remind ourselves when they compare our NHS with other NHSs, which is this is the best NHS for providing a proper, accessible NHS healthcare for every solitary person who needs it, whether they're rich or whether they're poor. And that's the one thing that we should be so fantastically proud about our NHS. In 1948, well, at least I wasn't born then, and I'm not quite that old. In 1948, when it was set up, millions of people couldn't afford to use the NHS. People died, people found, you know, quacks and all sorts of alternatives to getting proper health care. And when the NHS was set up in 1948, that meant everybody could access it. So we never should forget it. That is one of the founding principles of our NHS, and we need to keep defending it, because the Tories unquestionably want to change the nature of that NHS to make it an NHS where you can only get some services if you can afford that. And we see that all the time with access to different types of treatments gradually being taken away from us. And that's why it's so important that we are here today fighting for it to be 70, we want it to be 80, we want it to be 90, we want it to be 100, we want it to continue, and we want to get rid of all the privateers in the NHS, and we want to run up public, accountable NHS free for everybody. So that's my speech. So I think we should start off then. So which of our lovely politicians would like to kick off first? Come on, Julian. I think a big hand for Julian. I did say to Julian on Saturday that I doubted if there were any other council leaders on the 70th NHS demonstrations on Saturday, so I'm really pleased that Julian was there. It's excellent that you were there. Should have had all the council leaders, certainly all the Labour council leaders, there on Saturday. So over to Julian.
Thanks, Eve, and thank you everybody for making the effort to come today. I've just come back from Birmingham at the Local Government Association conference, but I needed to get here, so I caught an early train to make sure I was back, because, you know, this is the jewel in the crown in terms of what we have in Britain, the NHS, and we need to fight to protect it and do everything that we can to protect Ealing Hospital. My mother-in-law's in there at the moment, being looked after and getting fantastic care. And you know, there are so many who desperately need the NHS. It's 70 years now, but there are those who are still alive who can remember what it was like before the NHS, and what happened when people had to avoid going into hospital or getting medical treatment because they just couldn't afford, or they racked up big bills and they tried to get help from people generously giving charitably to get their health care. My father was a young man, but his father died young and in a difficult situation. I've had conversations with him about the financial stress that my family went through when that happened. Thanks everybody for the campaign to save our hospitals. We don't believe what the weasel words that we're hearing from the Tories. They keep telling us that it's not closed. Well, you know, they keep closing sections bit by bit. You know, the paediatric ward and A&E, we were here just a few years ago demonstrating against that being closed. The maternity unit, they've closed it, and yes, they put £3 million investment into that maternity unit, and then they closed it. And at the moment they're saying the same kind of stuff about Charing Cross. Oh, we're putting some investment into the A&E, so we're not going to close it. Well, why not take all that small print out of that STP and out of that Shaping a Healthier Future documents, which say they will close it? They haven't taken that away. That that is still there in small print. And until that goes, we're going to keep fighting every inch of the way to protect Ealing Hospital and protect Charing Cross Hospital. So let's keep up the fight, and happy birthday to the NHS.
Yay! Virendra, would you like to come and, I never get your title right. Everybody, I think most people will know, Virendra has just recently taken over the lead chair, whatever you, is it? Cabinet portfolio for health and social care, and we look forward to working with Virendra over the next period. So, Virendra.
Thank you. This is a great opportunity for me to introduce myself to all of you. I'm looking forward to working with Julian and all of you in continuing this fight to save Ealing Hospital. I would like to share a personal experience with you because I've used Ealing Hospital for as long as I can remember. In fact, I hate to admit it, I remember it being open. And I've used the maternity wing where my daughter was born. I've used the paediatrics where her life was saved on a number of occasions. And to have a hospital like that support you and ensure that your family are well and really shape the way my family are today is absolutely incredible. And I'm personally indebted to the hospital, but in my formal capacity as the portfolio for health, I will continue to support Julian and all of you in your fight, and I really look forward to working with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Arthur Breens, and I'm the treasurer of the organisation that's produced all these leaflets, all these marvellous hats, all these posters, and all these honk if you think the NHS is worthwhile. We've been fighting a long, long time. It's 5 years. There's some superb characters on our little team. Some have written books, some turn out in all weathers, some turn out when they're well enough to turn out, and some engage the passengers of buses so they wish they weren't there, giving them leaflets. What I'd like to say is that I'm a pre-NHS baby. I had a hernia, as young boys sometimes do, where the testes drop from the cavity, the body cavity. I was 11 months and there were no operations for 11-month-old babies, they were just left to die. But I must have had a peculiar GP because when he died, over 1,000 people attended his funeral, so he must have pulled a few strings, and that's why I'm here today. There's a few people here who wish I wasn't, but that's neither here nor there. You have to be controversial to do anything, and that's why we're here, and I think it's really good that you all turned out. Thank you very, very much for coming.
Everybody here has heard everything I've had to say 100 times, and most of them. Look,
say it again. Say it again.
We've got to get into the House this afternoon because we've got an emergency statement on the Amesbury poisoning. And when something that happens like that, some disaster that happens like that, who are you going to call? You're going to call the National Health Service. So at this very moment in Amesbury in Wiltshire, the National Health Service is dealing with a possible notochic poisoning. They are at the absolute cutting edge of technology, but no matter how good the technology is, anywhere, in any health service, anywhere in the world, it matters nothing unless the heart and the soul is there behind it. If a health service is purely based on commercial value, if it's about the price rather than the value, then that is not a national health service, that is a notional health service. And when you see what's happening in Wiltshire today, doctors, nurses, ancillary workers are going there to the hospital, to Swindon General, and they could be in contact with one of the most lethal poisons the world's ever known. Do you think any single one of them is going to turn away from the door and say, no, not me, not me, this is not my job, this is not what I get paid for? Because you work in the National Health Service, you are committed to the health of the nation, and the nation needs to be committed to the National Health Service. I'm not going to make a big issue about me being born 2 days before the National Health Service. On the other hand, I would point out that in Hammersmith in 1948, I was actually born on Saturday, July the 3rd, and the NHS in London actually did start on the Saturday because it was just easy for financial purposes. It would have cost my dad 20 guineas had I been born the day before, and as my mother always said, I wouldn't have been worth it. But listen, the oldest and the saddest truism in politics is either use it and lose it, or the squeaking wheel gets the oil. If we don't use and defend our National Health Service, we're going to wake up one day and find it's gone, and you won't know what it's gone, what you've got till it's gone. Because at the moment, it's not just surgeons who slice off parts of the body bit by bit, millimetre by millimetre. It's the Conservatives in their attitude to the National Health Service. And I couldn't call them surgeons. There's nothing surgical about this. It's butchery. And when you're butchering something so bloody wonderful, something as marvellous as the NHS, that is a gift relationship amongst all of us, we give into it, we take out from it. But above all, we never ask the question. If you go into the A&E, the question you're asked is, where does it hurt? Not, have you got your checkbook with you? What's your insurance? And do any of us really want to descend into the sort of world where the treatment you get, whether you live or die, is dependent upon the contents of your wallet? Because that's not a world I want to live in. And that's not a world I'm prepared to live in. And that's not a society that I'm prepared to be part of. Because this, our National Health Service, may be creaking, it may be fraying at the edges a little bit, it may be underfunded, but at its core is the single most important relationship that we as individuals can have with the state. We are one. This is our National Health Service. It is not anyone else's National Health Service. And I appreciate Jeremy Hunt has problems remembering how many houses he's got. He has problems remembering his accountant's name. But he can never ever forget that we, the people, the ordinary people, are committed to this National Health Service. We are not prepared to stand by and let it fall and die. We are not prepared to let the death of 1,000 cuts destroy what was achieved in 1948 by Anara and Bevan, a great Labour, a great socialist member of Parliament. We are not prepared, my friends, comrades, we're not prepared to see it fall and die. And as long as there are people like Eve Turner making a bloody nuisance of herself, and long may she do it. Boris Johnson may have lied about lying down in front of the bulldozers at Heathrow, but we are not lying when we say, if that dark day ever comes, Eve, you and I, in front of that feckin' bulldozer. Happy birthday to the NHS, and here's to the next 70 years. Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, our NHS. Happy birthday to you. For it's a jolly good service. For it's a jolly good service. For it's a jolly good service. And so say all of us. And so say all of us. And so say all of us. For it's a jolly good service, for it's a jolly good service, for it's a jolly good service. And so say all of us. That wasn't too bad, was it? Does everybody know the Teddy Bears Picnics? Have you heard that song, If You Go Down in the Woods Today, blah blah? So this is our version. So I hope everybody will not mind joining in. If you go out for a walk today, you better not catch a cold. You'll end up going to hospital and find that it's been sold. The government's cutting the national health and selling it off to private wealth. Today's the day we're standing up to protest. That wasn't too bad, was it? Next one. The lovely people who live round here are in for a big surprise when half of Ealing Hospital will vanish before their eyes. They'll have to travel some miles away and queue for care for nearly a day. Today's the day we're standing up to protest. You're getting into it now, yeah? Yeah.
Right, I think we should do
we'll wait for the health workers to come to do the health workers song. So why don't we do If We All Stand Together We Will Win? I think a lot of people know this, we sing it on demos. Do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS? Love our NHS? Love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Can we save Ealing Hospital?
Yes, we can.
Can we save Ealing Hospital?
Yes, we can.
Can we save Ealing Hospital? Save Ealing Hospital? Save Ealing Hospital? Yes, we can. If we all stand together, we will win.
We will win.
If we all stand together, we will win. If we all stand together, all stand together, all stand together, we will win. Should we do that one again? Do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS? Love our NHS? Love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Can we save Ealing Hospital?
Yes, we can. Yes, we must.
Can we save Ealing Hospital? Yes, we can. Can we save Ealing Hospital? Save Ealing Hospital? Save Ealing Hospital?
Yes, we can.
If we all stand together,
Yes, we win.
if we all stand together, if we all stand together, all stand together, all stand together, we will win. Should I do one more? This is from Eric. This is Eric's version of Where Have All the Flowers Gone, I think. Is that the correct title? We do still have some doctors, but this is a really great song. It's on the back, so it's sung to go. Where have all the doctors gone? Long time passing. I'm a bit out of tune today, sorry. Where have all the doctors gone? Long time ago. Where have all the doctors gone? Gone to Australia, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the nurses gone? Long time passing. Where have all the nurses gone? Long time ago. Where have all the nurses gone? Gone to New Zealand, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the hospitals gone? Long time passing. Where have all the hospitals gone? Long time ago. Where have all the hospitals gone? Luxury flat blocks, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Because it's not quite true, but that's what they're aiming at, I think. Okay, folks, can I introduce Councillor Aisha Raza? She's going to say a few words and then she's going to actually read a message of support from Dr. Omkar Sahota, who can't be with us today because he's moving a motion. I better keep finishing. He's moving a resolution at the Greater London Assembly today, so he's really sorry because he normally always comes to these events. So, over to you.
Firstly, we haven't had any chanting of Who's NHS, so we're going to start with a big old chant, please, because whenever we started any bit of our march for the NHS, we started with a chant of Who's NHS?
Our NHS!
Who's NHS?
Our NHS!
Who's NHS?
Our
So
NHS!
it's also mine and yours and all of ours. hours. So it's really brilliant to see so many people here today to celebrate the NHS's 70th birthday. And as Eve said, and as so many people have said today, let's keep it going. Let's have it here forever, for generations to come. So, in the best possible sort of way, I'm going to say tonight, Matthew, I'm also going to be on Sahota. So here's a message of solidarity from our AM, Dr. Sahota, who is currently passing the motion. So, yes, you're going to have to imagine I'm Onkar because obviously he's written this. So he says, I'm very sorry I cannot be here with you today to celebrate the 70th birthday of the NHS. This is a key milestone, and Nai Bevan would have been very, very pleased to see his baby has grown to be 70-year-old today and still is the envy of the world. You and I have been campaigning for the NHS for many years now, and we know of the underfunding for the NHS and the high vacancy rates amongst the nurses and the doctors, the very low morale that we have in our hospitals, and the reconfiguration of the services and closures of hospital beds. These are very important issues, but today is a day to celebrate the achievements of the NHS and to recognise the hard work of the NHS staff. Even though these are hard times, they still put the love and care and affection for their patients first, which is why they're not with us right now. I will be leading the motion in the London Assembly today, celebrating the achievements of the NHS, and will thank all of those who work or have worked for the NHS. We have to work just as hard to build this country and this NHS, and we celebrated the arrival of the Windrush generation who made the NHS what it is today. I personally want to thank all of those who came from overseas and have worked so hard to build this wonderful service and the economy of this country. I want to also thank the porters, the receptionists, the cleaners, the doctors, the nurses. In fact, I want to thank everybody who plays any part in the NHS, no matter how big or how small. No system can work until everybody pulls together and works in the same direction. And this happens in the NHS every day when everybody is doing their very best for our patients. When establishing the NHS on the 5th of July 1948, Nai Bevan, the Health Minister in the post-war Labour government under Prime Minister Attlee, said that the NHS will last as long as there are folk left to fight for it. You are these folk who are part of Ealing Save Our Hospitals campaign, which is actually Ealing's Save Our NHS campaign. And have been fighting for the NHS, whether the sun shines or whether it snows, rain, hail, sleet. We have all been here together, literally shoulder to shoulder sometimes, and marching up and down various streets. Oh, I've lost my space now. Yeah. The work that you have done and continue to do to protect the services for the people of Ealing, to protect Nai Bevan's founding principles of the NHS and ensure that the NHS delivers the best possible care for all of us here in Ealing. I look forward to keeping up this fight and fighting alongside you in the future to make sure that the NHS is here forever. Who's NHS? Our NHS! Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to pass on to Eve again. Thank you very much.
Right, Mike Elliott would like to say a few words. I think he remembers the NHS. I don't know if you remember it before.
Well, I do. Yeah, I'm probably one of the older people here, and I was 16 when the NHS was founded. I remember what it was like before, not so much for myself, but for my grandparents, who had to go to a hospital almoner and plead for charity in order to get some very basic health provision. Those are the bad old days, and we don't want ever to go back to them. But that is the way we're heading if we're not very careful. There are some countries, of course, in the world where there isn't any proper health provision. Many parts of the United States. I think you've probably all heard the joke about the guy who collapses in an American city, and doctors come to look at him, and they're bending over him and feeding in his pocket, and somebody says, "Are you checking his pulse?" "No," they said, "we're checking that he's got his credit card to pay for any treatment." That's not the kind of situation we ever want to see here. and over my days as European MP, how many other countries in Europe spend a much higher proportion of their national income on healthcare than we do here. Their systems may not be exactly the same, they're better in some respects, not so good in others, but it's appalling that we're not prepared to spend more on healthcare. Remember when the health service started in 1948? It was only 3 years after the end of the Second World War. The country was in huge debt. It was immensely poorer than it is today. How is it that we could provide a health service free at the point of use to all in those conditions just after the Second World War, and today, as an immensely richer and more prosperous country, we say we can't afford to provide a proper health service? It's a question of whether there's the will to provide it. And we need people like Nye Bevan, who I had the privilege of meeting on a few occasions when I was very young, including a television programme, and we need people like him who are inspired enough to say, look, if this is what the people need and should have, then somehow we must make the provision available to them. So long live the health service, may it have many, many future years, and perhaps we will have a government before too long that will be prepared to put all the resources that need to be put into giving us a top-class, world-class health service. Thank you.
Many people here might know who Michael Rosen was. He was the poet laureate, and he has done a poem. It's Michael Rosen was actually saluting the NHS at 60, but what he said at 60 was just the same. And Judy, who's one of our lovely supporters, is going to read it.
These are the hands by Michael Rosen, who wrote it for all the people who work within the NHS. These are the hands that touch us first, feel your head, find the pulse, and make your bed. These are the hands that tap your back, test the skin, hold your arm, wheel the bin, change the bulb, fix the drip, pour the jug, replace your hip. These are the hands that fill the bath, mop the floor, flick the switch, soothe the sore, burn the swabs, give us a jab, throw out sharps, design the lab. And these are the hands that stop the leaks, empty the pan, wipe the pipes, carry the can, clamp the veins, make the cast, log the dose, and touch us last.
Clara, I'll introduce Clara. She's a fantastic campaigner. I think many people will know, supporting our campaign since the beginning, and we love her to bits.
Sorry, come for a second. Loving me to bits isn't going to do the NHS much good. I became a consultant in 1972 and worked for over 30 years at St Thomas's Hospital. And my claim to fame is that I invented home glucose monitoring. That is, you have diabetes and you need to put your finger to find out what your sugar is doing. That came from St Thomas's. Now, this has made a huge difference to diabetics of all sorts. But now, the GPs are restricting the number of reagent sticks that a patient can have. And nowadays, you may not get a prescription if it's over the counter, and sticks are over the counter. So we must campaign to make sure that these facilities are kept. This is a sort of creeping at the edges, taking a little bit away, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, until eventually nothing's left. But if we unite and stand together and don't let this NHS completely fall apart, we will win.
I think they were one of two people. Jean, where are you? Jean and Colin. Do you want to? They want to talk about. They're actually people who want to talk about what this hospital means to them. So, Colin as well, or just too shy? Go on, Jean.
My partner Colin, he's here. He might want to say just 2 words. I'm going to say 6 words. He was in hospital for about 5 days, having taken himself into A&E, thinking he needed a change of medication. And he was in hospital here in Ealing for 5 days about 2 weeks ago. And I visited twice a day. I was on the ward, and you see what's happening, you hear what's happening, and in Colin's 4-bedded ward, I mean everybody was needy because they're in hospital on the ward, they're not at home. But there were 2 guys on his ward who were really very needy. And the way all the staff treated them, interacted with them, you couldn't have wished for anything better under private medicine, if that. I mean, why I'm mentioning even private, it was absolutely phenomenal. They weren't putting it on for my benefit, it wasn't a show, it was daily life, day in, day out, and I was privileged, never mind about Colin having brilliant treatment himself, but privileged to witness the way the ward was run. And if this is, you know, if they can do this with low morale, with cutbacks, with everybody having a go at them, certainly this government, then I think the treatment Colin had and the things I saw were exemplary, and I just wanted to state that today.
Thank you. So if you hear anybody slagging off the hospital, tell them to shut up. I would overcome.
See, Colin is not usually terribly emotional, but it was absolutely overcoming. You know, and he's had phone calls, is his medication okay? Has he realised this, you know, because we're older people, so they're really taking care of everybody. And so we were very impressed. And as I say, I wanted to say, Colin's managed to say 2 words, but you can see the emotion, which is, you know, how we all feel. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, some of those doctors and staff are just about here now.
Do we love our NHS?
Yes!
Do we love our wonderful doctors, nurses and other staff?
Yes!
Do it for them! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! Come on! Come and join us! We've been hanging on because we couldn't cut the cake till you got here. We've just been hearing from someone who was on the ward for 5 days, saying they couldn't have got better health care anywhere, and they just thought you guys were absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you're up for saying a few words yet, Gerd?
Say something?
I know how difficult it is for you to manage a few words, but I'm sure you'll manage. We love this man!
Alright, well, I actually want to say thank you.
Bit nearer, louder.
Louder?
Yeah.
Alright then. I think we've got some of our junior doctors here. People have been on call overnight, people have been on call yesterday. We've got some of our nurses, we've got some of our endoscopy nurses, we've got some of our senior doctors, our consultants, and they are all absolutely amazing. I cannot imagine any other organisation than the NHS to work in. I think it's a phenomenal place to work. I absolutely love my job. I love working with these people. I think every day they're performing miracles to help people in extremis, and if we didn't have an NHS, we just wouldn't have the safety net that we have a luxury of having in this country. We are so grateful to all of you guys, because you are just out here all of the time supporting us, and we feel so much strength knowing that you're here supporting us. So thank you very much everyone, and thank you in particular to all these guys here.
I should say that Gerd is the most fantastic defender of this hospital, and he makes it so much easier for us to campaign too, knowing that he's in there fighting, and knowing that all you wonderful people are in there looking after us, making sure we're safe, trying to make us as well as possible, and also given all the difficulties and the axes that hand over this hospital. I just think you're all absolutely amazing, and I guess we ought to now cut the cake. Actually, could Gerd or one of you come and cut the cake? No, let's get the handling knives. So we might have some surgical cuts of the cake. Come on, guys.
So we already have a countdown, didn't we? So, 5, 4, 3.
It's all of you. Go on, Irene. Now Irene's doing the job of that. So hang on, don't run away. Because Irene's going to get very mucky. Go Irene, shut it up. There you go.
Yeah, it is. They did one downstairs. Take one thing and they come out first, obviously. They're conversing on cake.
That is a bad. Before I start bribing everyone with cake.
Probably not, probably like just hospital. I like that. Oh, no, yeah, that's sorry, on top of your hands. Use your hands, it's okay, don't worry. I think the roses are squidgy. Make sure everybody's come out and wants to forget. I think you can. Yeah. I mean, give them a big chunk. She'll take it on the board. Yeah. She can take it on the board, so give her a big block. What about that bit? No, give her another one, because she's got lots on the board. Give her one that will fit on there, and she can take it out. They can cut it. Oh, we can cut it. Don't worry about cutting it, just give them a block. Okay. Good size. Another block. Another block. That was it last week. Thank you. Thanks, Dad. That's all right. The more people who get cake, the better. We need all our NHS stuff. These are big bits. These are big bits. Yeah. Well done. You do something. There's a watch for the whole wood stuff. Yeah. Okay. No, we need to have all of you have a bit of cake today.
Yeah, no, well, it's BS. So the last council meeting, when the Tories don't have those briefings,
There might be one here somewhere.
Hi, Jimmy, how are you?
Well, Julian,
good to see you.
How are you? Hello. Nice to see you.
Thanks for coming. Indeed.
We're going to give everyone a cake moment.
My mother-in-law's on
Tony, can you put it back on?
the 7th floor, I think. So that's where I'm headed now.
Hi everybody, please don't all go after you've had cake. We've got a few more speeches, a bit more singing, we've got people who'd like to say a few words. So I hope once everyone's settled down with their cake, it'll take a while. We'll hear from a few more people about why they love the NHS, maybe do a few more songs.
Smile.
Martin, where are you?
You're looking serious. He's here. Running out the best
Would you guys mind going over there? Or the cameraman wants to be here. Cameraman wants to be here. Right.
Martin!
Martin, do you want to come here?
You guys just careful, Ollie.
It's alright. I've got a magic spell.
Do we love our NHS?
Yes.
Right, do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS?
Yes, we do.
Do we love our NHS? Love our NHS? Love our NHS? Yes, we do. Can we save Ealing Hospital? Yes, we can. Can we save Ealing Hospital?
Yes, we can.
Can we save Ealing Hospital? Save Ealing Hospital. Save Ealing Hospital. Yes, we can. good service, for it's a jolly good service, for it's a jolly good service. And so say all of us, and so say all of us, and so say all of us, for it's a jolly good service, for it's a jolly good service, for it's a jolly good service. And so say all of us. In West London A&Es, they close paediatric and maternity. Sing nay, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will we give up our hospitals. No, never, no more. We'll join up and protest. We'll shout and we'll scream. We'll tell the health minister he's living in dreams. Around the whole country, our movement grows strong. We'll fight for our hospitals no matter how long. So listen, you bankers, you rich privateers, hands off our health service, you're not welcome here. Singing no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will we give up our hospitals. No, never, no more. That chorus again. Singing no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more will we give up our hospitals. No, never, no more. Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Some lovely singing there. So, this gentleman here wants to come and talk to us about why he loves the NHS and why it's important to him. Say your name.
Hello everyone. I'm hoping you're having a great day. My name is Abdullah Ali. I am from Acton Youth Association. Just come here to show you a bit of support because I realize the NHS or the Ealing Hospital is not only for the nurse or the doctors. It's literally for us. And we're supposed to take a part of it and stand together. As long as we're together, nobody can move us. So happy birthday to all of you lot, and I hope keep doing the great work that you lot are doing. Thank you very much.
Big cheer! And I hope you all enjoyed the cake. You're probably going to say a few words from Ealing Trades Council.
I'll just carry on where I was left talking to the Get West London Ealing Gazette, which is to say that this is happening now, and this is not just the anniversary of an institution, the NHS, it's the anniversary of the day when if you became sick, you got treated. And if you go to a lot of countries, that's not the case, and I'm not just talking about third world countries. A lot of countries, for example, have private insurance. They have insurance-based systems, and you never quite know what's going to happen, and that's really what they've got in store for us in Britain if they have their way. Some of these people from the Conservative Party who voted against the NHS at the time, they don't have a political mandate. They may be in office, but they didn't get in office by saying that they were going to undermine the NHS, they were going to privatise the NHS, they were going to shut down hospitals. So they don't have a mandate to do it, and we are not going to let it happen. And as we stand here now, there are people in cities and outside hospitals all around England doing exactly the same thing, giving cake to the staff, celebrating and all of that. And we have got a fantastic movement celebrating our fantastic staff, because it's a little bit of magic, isn't it? It's to me it's a little bit of socialism. To other people it depends what you believe in, but it's there, it's that we all put in, we all take out, as we need it. If we don't need it, we're very thankful, but we all know somebody in our family who does need it. So absolutely fantastic. The money is there. If you got rid of the internal market, some people estimate you would save 14% of the budget, because once you have whole departments of people estimating how much something costs and then passing it on to another department, once you've got trusts, so this trust has just rebranded itself in order to bid for work from the NHS. That trust there in St Bernard's Hospital has just rebranded itself. It's dropped the name Mental, but in order to bid for work, it's a complete nonsense. But thankfully, we have got fantastic staff who are carrying on anyway. We've got fantastic people in the community, and today we're celebrating it all. Please carry on supporting Ealing Saver NHS. You can check us out on the website and Facebook and all the rest of it. But it's not just about our organisation, Ealing Saver NHS. Lots of people are doing it, lots of political parties, lots of groups, lots of people are, and that's what we want. We want a whole movement to unite and put its arms around the NHS and say, no more, we're going to save it, because it's a fantastic institution. It's been here for 70 years and it needs to be here for another 700 years. So thanks for all your support.
We won't be here in 700 years, not unless we go into kind of deep stasis or whatever. Is there anyone else who wants to say a few words? Anyone else want to say why it's important to them? Everyone gets immediately shy. No?
Oh God, I'll just say.
Come on, Laura. Laura has this great teddy, always.
Me and Teddy have come all the way from North Kensington on the train and on the bus. Which was not an easy journey because nothing's accessible, but that's another story. But yeah, no, I just wanted to thank my mum, who is 92 and has been in good health most of her life, but has just had a knee operation in Chelsea and Westminster, and she'll be back on her feet, and she was treated fine and everything. So you know, she'll be back. You know, doing what she does, and all this stuff about, you know, old people, and like it's all about your old age. It's nothing to do with old age, it's to do with health. And if we all, you know, if we had a healthy society, then we wouldn't be a burden, and everybody would be entitled to treatment, well, no matter what age they are. So we need to end this age discrimination thing, you know, in politics and everywhere else, because it's really not true. But there is a time, however healthy you are, that we all are going to need some kind of treatment, and that's why we all need to pay into the NHS and get that treatment when you need it. So happy birthday, NHS.
Yeah, I must say, it's a good point by Laura. I mean, it's so disgusting that you blame older people for blocking beds in order to justify the fact that you've starved the NHS, so there's not enough. Do you want to have a little bit more singing? A bit more, people like to sing a little bit more, or you just want to mill around? What's the verdict?
Mill around.
Mill around? Alright, mill around. I must say, the gods were smiling at us because it was supposed to be a thunderstorm, but they didn't want to spoil our celebration, and so the sun came out. Do you want to say something? No, the choice is more cake. There's no more cake. The cake is gone. I hope everybody enjoyed the cake. Courtesy of Eggless Cakes in Southall, I think, who did a very lovely cake, I think. A cake box, they're called. Very nice cake. So nobody wants any more singing, alright? Nobody else going to say anything? Harry, come on, Harry.
Get the chair down the steps.
Hello, my name is Harry Alvarez, and I've been a happy member of this organisation for some years. I was born in 1945, but in 1958 I was suddenly whisked into hospital after weeks supposedly malingering at home, and it turned out that I needed my appendix removed very rapidly. That was at St George's Hospital when it was at Hyde Park Corner, and I was in what used to be called a Nightingale ward. It was a whacking great long thing. And I remember waking up after the operation and a very nice, pretty young nurse moistening my lips with just a few, don't laugh like that, with a few drops of water, and all I could do was croak more, and I croaked more a couple of times, and then I was violently sick, and I thought how unfair it was that she had to mop up everything when she'd been trying to give me good advice. There was a chap in the next bed who was a young motorcyclist who had a terrible crash and was having a whole series of bits of skin taken from one place to another place, and he had a wheelchair, and somehow I found a wheelchair, and we used to have races up and down the ward between the sister at one end and the charge nurse at the other end, and then because we were in an adult ward, and they were extremely kind to us, so I remember that very well. I remember too that some years later St George's Hospital was transferred out to Tooting. And the object of that, of the decentralisation, was clearly to clear a very expensive site at Hyde Park Corner so the government could get an awful lot of money. But just as they were about to rub their hands with glee as the hospital had been transferred, they got a letter from a fairly important chap who said, by the way, I do hope you remember, when this land was given to the government by my family many years ago, there was a covenant that said if it ever stopped being a hospital, it was to revert to me. And so it did, because he was the Duke of Westminster. And so the government, Mrs Thatcher in particular, had spent all that money transferring the hospital out to Tooting and got no reward, which was very, very sad. Later on, in fact only a few years ago, I was unlucky enough to have a very small hernia, and it was so small you could hardly see it, and it was absolutely non-urgent, so the surgeon decided to wait 6 months. And then I was called into Westminster Hospital, and it was a production line process. So we came in the morning, and the thing was whisked out. I believe the operation took a whole quarter of an hour, and then we had to make absolutely certain that our waterworks were functioning before we were allowed to go home. And it was incredible. Don't laugh like that. I'm telling it like it was, and it was extremely efficient. And so I'm very, very grateful to the NHS, which has been very kind to me. Thank you.
Do you know one of the things about being in a health campaign is you get to know about everybody's health problems in enormous detail, you know, regularly. We seem to spend a lot of time talking about all our health problems, which is obviously a very good reason why UK. Anyone else want to come and just say a few words about the NHS, or... No? No, are we all shy? No. Normally I can't shut some people up.
I think.
He's spoken already. Arthur's done, Arthur's spoken. Andy, come and say a few words. Andy's one of our NHS workers.
Okay, well, I was born in 1967. My mum insisted on home births, and I was an awkward lay in the room. Some people would say I've been an awkward lay ever since. The umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck, I was born blue, and the midwife was like, no, wake up, wake up! And eventually I did. Afterwards the doctors in the hospital said, by rights this child should be brain damaged. By rights this child should be stillborn. It's a near miracle he's not even brain damaged. So if it wasn't for the NHS, I wouldn't be here. Although many people would say I probably am a bit brain damaged anyway.
But you've been red ever since?
Yes, not red ever since. Not blue anymore.
Well, it's because apparently I am the third time lucky of my mum, because the first two were before the NHS, and when my mum had me, she said, oh, how lucky I am. That's nice, isn't it, really? She thought I was lucky to have me, and it was because of the NHS. And I think that is the story, isn't it, of so many people, children who've been born, people's lives who've saved, operations that have kept us active, and so on. And you know, a lot of the stuff that they cut back are also much like all the kind of threats to cut back on things like knee replacements and hip replacements, all the things that keep us active, keep us motivated. And you know, and again that feeds back into the thing about older people. by, as Laura said, by helping them with the hip replacements and knee replacements, which keep them motivated. Then people get depressed, their health deteriorates. It's completely nuts. It's like economics. The economics of this hospital are quite startling, and they give you an idea about what the government does. So they've got, like every NHS hospital, they've got a big debt. Their debt is over 31 million. So they get told, we'll give you some money if you make cuts. Now, your brain says, what? So they say, if you make cuts and show us how efficient you are, we'll give you another amount of money, and then you don't have to make so many cuts. And you think, so you've got to make cuts in order to get more money, so you don't make cuts. It's like, you know, excuse this word, but it is the economics of the madhouse, so to speak, or the old asylums. It's completely crazy. And then the central NHS, the NHS England, if you're very good, gives you a loan to cover your deficit of 31 million. You couldn't make this stuff up. It's absolutely, completely and utterly bonkers. And as Oliver said, one of the best ways of getting more money into the NHS is to get rid of that stupid market that means you waste millions and millions of pounds drawing up contracts and specifications in order to get people to bid to get their own service. So if you're this trust, you have to spend a load of money to bid to get the services that you already run. It is absolutely nutty, and you know, I understand that Jeremy Corbyn on the demonstration on Saturday said that that would be one of the things that they were definitely going to do. They were going to get rid of the internal market, and it's great that they're saying that. It was a pity it didn't get rid of under Blair, but never mind, at least now we've got a potential government that is saying they'll get rid of that market, which will save billions of pounds, and that money will go where it should, right in the front. So we have to obviously keep on campaigning. I hope you're all on our Ealing Save Our NHS list, which is here. We don't bombard you that often. We have a really good website. We've got lots of interesting articles. Claire has just written an article about what's happening to our urology services. Unfortunately, there won't be surgery for urology anymore in this hospital. It's going to be concentrated at Central Middlesex and Northwick Park, which is completely daft since the A&E is here. There isn't one at Central Mid, and so people will be coming here and then go to the A&E and then be transferred to another hospital. This is the kind of crazy thing that they do. But we're obviously going to keep on fighting. Please feel free to mill around for a little while. We've had a great turnout. It's been great having everybody here. And we're going to keep fighting. We're delighted that we are able to work closely with Ealing Council. It's one of the few councils that hasn't signed up for these horrible cuts plans, along with Hammersmith. But it's beginning to change. Other councils are saying we're not going to go along with this, and so on. So we got a bit of the tide is, I think after all this time, the tide is really turning, which is why the Tories have felt they have to make announcements about putting more money into the NHS. Because everybody realises that, you know, it's struggling, and it's fantastic that today we had so many NHS staff with us. So I'm going to shut up now, but feel free to mill around for a few more minutes. And thank you everybody for continuing to support what we do, to support what all campaigning, every demo, and sign up for our list if you're not on it, and keep on fighting.